You know, I didn't really think it was possible to screw the pooch nearly as much as Ubisoft seems to do on a daily basis, as every single news cycle looks like they're getting further and further down the hole of absolute depressing levels of degeneracy, as they have once again been caught doing a slew of monetary practices that will make even the most shrewd anarcho-capitalists raise his eyebrows in confusion, as it is something so unbelievably anti-consumer that it boggles the mind that someone would even remotely think this is something okay to do. What is up, denizens of the interwebs? It's ours the chats here, and it recently was found that Assassin's Creed Shadows might be hinting at having a potential battle pass hidden deep within their files that people were able to locate. That would be, well, stupid, an idiotic thing to do. A battle pass in a single player game. The only people who would ever be okay with doing that are lying to you or being paid off to be fine with it, because there's no world in which cosmetics are important enough to justify a battle pass system. And on top of that, it looks like Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora has done what might very well be the most disgusting, disingenuous highway robbery of an action that any AAA game has ever done, and somehow, until today with Smash JT discovering it, no one's been talking about it. Some people were loosely discussing on Reddit, but because nobody uses Reddit that has two brain cells to rub together, in fact there was an entire thread going over how a concerningly large number of Reddit users are missing entire segments of their brains, but to me that's just called common sense. But anyway, a whole slew of people are reporting issues where they cannot play Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora because they locked it after if you don't buy the DLC, you have to own the DLC to play the base game. What kind of dystopian hellscape is that kind of system? So without further ado, let's actually get into the topics at hand. Firstly, and this is a couple days old, Assassin's Creed Shadows will have a battle pass system according to Ubisoft leaks coming from that Park Place written by M. Montanaro. And while hopefully everyone knows all the issues around Assassin's Creed Shadows, between the fact that they chose a protagonist being Yusuke, the Afro Samurai, because of George Floyd, the fact that they had to delay the game because they kept offending people, the fact that they messed up every single thing in the game, and it was so horrendously historically inaccurate that they were at risk of an injunction from the Japanese government, the fact that they offended the Japanese people with a very tone-deaf statuette, and a slew of other problems that I don't have time to get in here right now. But if you're interested, I have a whole bunch of videos breaking down all of the Assassin's Creed Shadows problems. You guys should check them out. But this one might be the most disgusting thing that's been uncovered, because not only is this lazy, but this is actually harmful to the very nature of the free market, and in a way that is completely disingenuous to consumers. Gaming should be a consumer-focused market, and this is the kind of thing done to torture and abuse the people who are buying and playing the game instead of encouraging reason to pay. But what's even funnier is it shows the sheer level of tone deafness of Ubisoft's executives who think they can get away with anything and people will support them hand over fist. And they're going to find out real quick that's not the case. Now, shockingly enough to me, Ubisoft has apparently never done a battle pass system for the long-running historical action-adventure series. I would have almost expected them to put one in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, since as we all know, Valhalla didn't sell particularly well, but it made up for the low level of sales by people buying a huge number of the microtransactions. So for this week, leaked images surfaced this week that showed various Battle Pass rewards for the upcoming title. Now, thankfully I didn't cover this sooner, because apparently Ubisoft has been going through and scrubbing the internet of these images and copyright striking creators who posted. The developer has not yet confirmed or denied whether this leak is legitimate or not ahead of the game's February release. Well, February release, like it's ever going to come out in February. But no, the fact that they are copyright striking it all but confirms that they are real, because if it wasn't real, why bother striking it down? False information will not hurt them if they can prove that it is demonstrably false, but if they say it's false and then it comes out to be true, that will do even more harm to their brand. But silencing it only Streisand's affects it and makes it even more aware for the general population. Now, according to a data mine, players could complete daily missions as part of the Animus Hub. There were 20 Battle Pass tiers listed that provided players with cosmetic gear. One image showed Yusuke, the game's controversial protagonist, standing within the hub. They called it the Animus Hub. Okay, so the way that Assassin's Creed has always worked is it has internal logic, as you are playing a man, Desmond Miles, in the first 3 games. After that, you're playing a faceless character who goes into the Animus, which simulates the past events and the old memories of Desmond's ancestors, as for the most part, the majority of assassins you play as are directly related to Desmond Miles. And to that point, are they just completely destroying the frame system around the game? Because while the Animus was the pause system in Assassin's Creed 1 through 3, admittedly, that was because you were literally pausing the replay of the memory in the game. So, are we playing as a person who is completing daily tasks in the simulation? This doesn't even work from the frame setting, and it just shows that these people don't give a flying fuck about the project that they are actively working on. They do not care about the property whatsoever, though of course I could have told you that. And then the idea that they would have players doing daily tasks? Who is going to play Assassin's Creed Shadows long enough to justify daily tasks? The answer? No one. And what's more interesting is the name Isu Coin. In doing a cursory Google search, because I don't know Japanese, because I'm not that much of a weeb, it doesn't seem like Isu is anything in Japan. It's not even a word in Japanese from what I can tell. The closest I can find is Izu Island, so unless this game's set on that's basically, it just sounds like they chose a word that sounds vaguely Japanese and ran with it. I don't know but that seems like something Ubisoft would do. Now, of course, I don't need to break it to you, Ubisoft has a reputation of being a studio that abuses microtransactions to nickel and dime players. For example, in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, players encountered a mission with a recommended level that far exceeds natural progression. Ubisoft then sold a premium add-on for the game that would allow players to gain XP faster and cut their grind time in half. Because that's what you want to do in a single-player, narrative-focused game. Grinding. Now, of course, Assassin's Creed isn't the only franchise of theirs that is riddled to the brim with abusive microtransaction habits. With their game Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, as I mentioned earlier, doing what might be the least consumer-friendly thing possible or imaginable. They have locked the main story down to only people who buy the DLC. I wish I was making that up, because that's the kind of thing that a real person would never come up with. While it is kind of a sensible thing to do because it means that they have to give you more money, the notion that someone would ever suggest that and not get thrown out of the boardroom immediately is, well, I think it's a pretty good indicator of exactly how bad the financials over at Ubisoft are right now. Now, this is coming from Smash JT, shout out to him, over at his website, Smash JT. I know it's hard to believe, but Ubisoft has yet again found another way to go and outdo themselves, proving once more they've earned their extreme hatred of gamers worldwide. Players of Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora are discovered an issue. They're being locked out of their base game save files unless they shell out for the Skybreaker DLC. So Ubisoft effectively is holding your progress hostage unless you pay extra. Now, apparently this issue is broken to Smash JT, who has broken it to the world, since no one I know has ever heard of this issue, and very few people I know even know this game exists. From Andy Bellin over at Touch My Penis on X, who tipped Smash JT off about the reports that began flooding Reddit shortly after Skybreaker DLC launched. Smash JT says that this reminds him quite a bit of the Star Wars Outlaws bug that required all people who bought the early access for over $100 had to restart the game because a game-breaking bug was found in the early access version that made them have to restart because there was no way around it, which, is an absolutely disgusting way to go about it. And how are these people refunded for their time and the money they spent for the early access? In-game cosmetics. Because that means you don't actually do anything. You can just be like, oh, well, we gave you pixels. You're going to be happy now, right? No. Now, once again, I did want to do my due diligence, so I did go over to the Avatar's Frontier of Pandora Steam page, which I'm glad is on Steam because I'm not going to Epic Games. Fuck that shit. And I found out the game is $70, has mixed reviews. Funny thing is, it is actually almost equally 50-50. It's a little bit more 60-40, but it's pretty close on the numbers. And the number of reviews is critically tiny, with only 1,400 reviews in total. Now, as for that DLC that was mentioned, the DLC itself costs $15, which, while isn't an egregious amount for a DLC, it is when it's got poor reviews. Now, it was a little bit hard for me to find reviews that actually talked about the fact that you had to, buy the DLC to complete the game. This is a review right here that's mentioning it, and there weren't very many others that I could find, which made it a little bit hard. Both of the ones I have found in regards to this game blocking people from playing are from August. So, while Smash AT and his source are reporting that the game is still unavailable to those who have not bought the DLC, I cannot confirm that at the moment. But what's even crazier is the fact that the game is designed for online co-op. But if you do co-op, only the person who has the host player actually counts for playtime, meaning that if you do single player of the DLC, then you are locked out and have to recomplete the game on your own. The co-op does not count for that. And while I think it would make much more sense to have co-op and single player based lobbies, that way you can do both, the fact that you have to recomplete the game on your own is kind of idiotic if you want to go and continue the story without the person you're co-oping with. I also want to point out real quick that this game, that's only been out for a couple of months, so it's only been out since June, has $79.97 worth of DLC content. $80 of DLC add-on content for a game that at best is online co-op. What the fuck am I looking at? The base game is $70 with an additional $80 of add-on content that for what? So you can have fancier looking aliens? So your blue people can wear different clothes and your dinosaurs have costumes? The fact that someone first released this, and then the notion that there are people buying this, bewilders the mind. And even more disheartening is the fact that apparently buying the DLC does not resolve the issue. It will not always completely fix whatever the problem is, blocking you from accessing your save file, which is even more ridiculous. Imagine that. You spend $70 on the base game, told you have to buy the $15 DLC, so you buy the $15 DLC, and, well, shit, you're still shit out of luck. But what's even funnier is how Ubisoft has responded to this whole situation, claiming it is only a bug. And that's it. It's a vague statement that assures player that the issue is being investigated, but they offer no timeline for a fix in the meantime. Frustrated customers have been continually left in limbo. The affected players described Ubisoft's support system as worthless, with as many tickets ignored or closed without resolution. Imagine having an issue unresolved with a company and after a while they just go and close it out regardless. One user on Reddit stated this absolutely reeks of fraud, and honestly it's hard for me to argue otherwise when a bug conveniently directs the player to spend more money to play a game they already own. The future of gaming is just wonderful. And then coming from Andy Bellon again, this has been ongoing for 5 months, and Ubisoft refuses to fix it, provide free access to the DLC, which would allow players of the base game to continue playing the base game. Which would be the bare minimum of what they should do given the sheer extent of this failure of a studio. And then of course Master T asks the question, is this a bug or is it a DLC paywall being disguised as a bug? And it's almost certainly the latter, because if it was a bug, they would have bothered to patch it by now. Assuming they still have anyone working at Ubisoft who has the knowledge of the stuff that they have in that game to actually fix the bugs, because let's be honest, they don't have a single person worth their salt at Ubisoft. I also like how Smash AT posted a little section on why Ubisoft sucks, as though anyone needs a reminder. So it's official. Unfortunately, Ubisoft has proved themselves to be a relic of the past. There's something done and gone with, something to be ignored and no longer to be given any kind of credence to. With even games that are being praised as being good games failing on the market, such as the Prince of Persia game, the market has spoken unanimously. We're tired of being fucked around by a studio that will continue to do it all for a little bit more profit, all while pushing politics we don't like and we don't want, and calling us bigots when we talk about it. Even going to the full extent of attacking the Japanese audience who are criticizing the game by pretending they're just a bunch of losers using Google Translate. This is inherently anti-market, anti-consumer, and it will be exactly what kills Ubisoft, because sooner or later, an indie market is going to come in and sweep its place. Assuming one could say that hasn't already happened. But let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this. Do you think it's really a bug? Are you going to be that generous, or do you really think they're just locking behind a paywall and are embarrassed that they get called out? And I will see you guys on the next one.